Okay, I think we'll make a start. Um, Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome to the third webinar in the Now We Are 15 series hosted by the Growing Up in New Zealand team. First of all, I'd just like to apologize for the slight delay in starting. There seemed to have been a problem with the links that were sent out, and people were not able to log in, but hopefully a new link has been sent out, and we'll get a few more people on this call. Um, Now, I just wanted to introduce myself. So my name is Evanesh Pillay. I'm the Research and Biostatistics Manager at Growing Up in New Zealand. And it is my pleasure today to be presenting this data access workshop along with Terry Lee, the Data Access and Systems Coordinator at Growing Up in New Zealand. Um, so, just before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. You'll see that there is a question and answer feature available for you in this webinar. And please use that feature to send through any questions you have about our 15-year data or our other Growing Up in New Zealand data sets or any questions around data access. And we will keep a track of the questions. We have the Growing Up team monitoring the question and answer, so we'll be able to provide some answers. But if we're not able to answer today, we will get back to you very soon after the webinar with answers to your questions. Okay, so many of you will know that Growing Up in New Zealand is Aotearoa's largest contemporary longitudinal study of child and youth well-being. Participants in our study were recruited in 2009-10 during pregnancy, and the team has been following the cohort since this time. The work you are hearing about today comes from the 15-year checkpoint, which was designed with two objectives in mind. The first one was to reach out to our cohort and continue the work of relationship building. And then the second one was to administer a brief questionnaire designed to be relevant to this age and stage of our Growing Up in New Zealand cohort, so 15-year. And that's what I'll be starting today's presentations with now. As you can see, oops, sorry about that. The outline for today. So the session today is to understand our 15-year checkpoint data sets. And then I'll also talk a little bit about the other Growing Up in New Zealand data sets and the longitudinal data sets that we have over the last 16 years. And Terry will then cover the data access process. So this workshop today is useful for anyone interested in using data from the Growing Up in New Zealand longitudinal study. The aim is to go through the 15-year checkpoint data, also to understand what other Growing Up in New Zealand longitudinal data sets are available. I'll talk about the 15-year checkpoint data first, and then I'll talk briefly about all the other data sets we have. Now, I realize today there'll be people on this webinar who have used our Growing Up in New Zealand datasets previously. Previous or current data users. And for you, the 15-year data will be of interest. Then there are those here who are here to learn about what data is available and how to access our systems. And our data sets. So I hope there is something useful in this workshop today for everyone attending. So after I've finished, I will hand over to my colleague Terry, who, as I said, is the Data Access and Systems Coordinator at Growing Up in New Zealand. Terry will talk to you about the Data Access Committee application process and timings, the resources available that you'll need, and then Growing Up's secure data access platform. Okay, so I thought I would start this workshop today by talking a little bit about the Now We Are 15 Methods paper. So the Now We Are 15 Methods paper is a paper that we've prepared for the 15-year checkpoint. You would have seen references to this paper in the Now We Are 15 snapshots and the supplementary materials. And so we've developed this paper with the aim to provide a summary of the 15-year checkpoint, which occurred between February and July 2025. And so the aim is that for a data user, they are able to look at this paper and get a summary of what it is that we collected at 15-year, a summary of the longitudinal response patterns that we've observed, some information on the key socio-demographic variables in terms of descriptives that we've used, a general approach to the way we did the analysis for the 15-year snapshots, and how we dealt with missing data in the questionnaires. Also included in this 15-year methods paper at the end is a citation. And so the hope is that all data users are able to use this paper, get a summary of the 15-year data collected and the methods, and then be able to use this paper in the work that they'll be disseminating. Now the 15-year methods, Now We Have 15 Methods paper will be available on our website by the end of today. And so I'd encourage you to have a look at that paper and see what information is in there. I'll just mention that the information in the methods paper is a collation of information that's available in our Now We Are 15 snapshots and in the Now We Are 15 supplementary material. Okay, this is probably a good time to have a look at the information that we've collected at Growing Up in New Zealand since the antenatal phase. So this diagram here shows us the mode for each data collection wave, starting from the antenatal phase up to the 15-year. So at the 15-year, you can see that we collected the mother questionnaire information and the child questionnaire information, and they were virtually collected. So caregivers and children were able to fill it out on a computer. If you look at the antenatal phase, the study began by recruiting pregnant mothers who had expected delivery dates between the 25th of April 2009 and the 25th of March 2010. These pregnant mothers were residing in the then geographical areas defined by the District Health Board regions of Auckland, Counties Manukau, and Waikato. The cohort at the start was 6,853 children recruited at baseline. The cohort was very diverse. It was broadly generalizable to the New Zealand birth population at the time. And since then, you can see in this diagram, the study has collected quite a bit of information at each collection wave. All the information that we've collected from the antenatal phase, the reporting from this is all available on our website, and this can be accessed at our website under reports. So I'd encourage you to have a look if you haven't seen this information previously. Okay, so at the 15-year checkpoint, what did we collect? So the 15-year checkpoint questionnaires comprise of a young person's questionnaire, a primary caregiver questionnaire, and a child proxy questionnaire. So the child proxy questionnaire was completed by the primary caregiver. And so these are the three questionnaires that you can see. And these questionnaires will also be available on our website along with the data dictionaries by the end of today. So available for you to have a look at and start planning your research question. Briefly, the information collected from the young person included child health, ethnicity, and well-being constructs like depression, anxiety, resilience, and social and emotional health. The information we collected from the primary caregiver included data on housing, finances, material hardship, and food insecurity. The child proxy questionnaire collected information on disability, whether the children had access to health and social services, school education, satisfaction with school support, and hopes and dreams. So when combined with the existing longitudinal Growing Up in New Zealand datasets, and I'll cover that in the next few slides, the 15-year checkpoint data can really enhance the study's capacity, really to examine how multiple domains of well-being develop and interact over time. And so this approach really strengthens the relevance of the study for a wide range of stakeholders. And then it supports more nuanced longitudinal analysis across the life course and for your research question. Very quickly, the 15-year checkpoint data dictionaries that will be available at the end of today on our website. These data dictionaries correspond to the questionnaires. So one for the mother questionnaire, one for the child questionnaire, and one for the child proxy questionnaire. The data dictionaries contain information on all the individual questions that are present in each questionnaire. For these data dictionaries and for all the other data dictionaries, please have a look at our website. I thought I would present to you just the amount of information that's available in the 15-year checkpoint datasets. So our three questionnaires, the mother, the child, and the child proxy by mother questionnaire. The dataset column is what the datasets are referred to. So DCW 15 is the NAWIA 15 checkpoint, and then mother, child, and child mother, the suffixes. The number of cases are the number of rows in each of these datasets. And then, as you can see, the total number of variables show that we collected quite a number of pieces of information on the mother and the child. And so you'll be able to have a look at the data dictionaries and see what information there is. But this is just to give you an idea of how much information that we've collected at the 15-year checkpoint. Something else that's present in our methods paper is for the 15-year checkpoint is this graph. So this shows the longitudinal trajectories, longitudinal trajectories of our cohort broken down by the ethnic groups. So as you can see here on the x-axis, we've got the overall group, Māori, Pacific, Asian, Mila, Other, and the sole European ethnic groups. And we've got some numbers below them. These numbers are the numbers present at the antenatal phase. And then on the side there, you can see what the self-identified ethnicity, the total response, numbers are at the 15-year mark. So this graph really gives you an idea of longitudinal response patterns over time, broken down by the ethnic groups. Now, ethnicity refers to the mother's total response ethnicity, as reported at the antenatal collection wave. And so the construct of ethnicity is widely used to measure and analyze differences between groups. Um, and more importantly, the total response ethnicity was used to present descriptive information in the Now We Are 15 snapshots. For a full description of total response ethnicity, please have a look at the supplementary material and the methods paper. It's explained in there, but this classification really is used by the health and well-being sectors, the total response ethnicity, quite a lot. Great. Just to finish off on the Now We Are 15 data, the methods paper is available here. If you scan this and look on the web page, it's there. And this is what the front page of the Now We Are 15 methods paper looks like with the citation. Okay. I will very quickly just walk you through what the other data sets at Growing Up in New Zealand look like. So the best way I thought we'd do this was if I gave you a longitudinal data overview of all the data sets that we have at Growing Up in New Zealand, including the Now We Are 15 data sets. So as you can see up at the top, in those orange boxes are the data collection waves, starting with DCW0, the antenatal phase, DCW1, the 9-month, DCW2, the 2-year, all the way up to DCW15, the 15-year checkpoint. And these cylinders represent the questionnaires that were rolled out at each collection wave. And so at the 15-year, as I've just shown, you can see we had the mother questionnaire, we had the child questionnaire, and we had the child proxy questionnaire. So as you can see, we have quite a lot of data that we've collected over 16 years. They are all available for you to apply and use for your research questions. But this is a good overview to see how much data there is available at Growing Up in New Zealand, and whether it's from the child, the mother, the partner, or the child proxy questionnaire. To go with this diagram, these are the sources of information that we have at Growing Up in New Zealand. So we have information that we've collected on the mother. And the way we refer to this in our research data sets is MID. We have information we've collected from the partner. So typically the partner defined as the young person's mother and their household. Child proxy mother is information about the child provided by their mother. We have the child proxy partner information that we've collected at some time points. We've also collected child observations at previous collection waves, and then we've collected information from the child themselves. So this is just to give you an idea of different sources of information that we've collected from different people in the Growing Up cohort. To my way of thinking, no data access workshop is complete without our entity relationship diagram. Now you're probably looking at this and going, yikes, I can't see that at all, or also that there's way too much information in here. So I'll just enlarge it a little bit. This is analogous to the diagram you saw before. It starts from the bottom, from DCW0 antenatal on the left-hand side, and all the way through to DCW15 up the top. Now, the information in the boxes are the MIDs, the CIDs, and the FEMID is the information that you saw on our previous slide. And for people using our research data sets, these are the keys that you will use to link across data sets, across time, for your research question of interest. So, for example, if you were to use mother information and you wanted to merge the antenatal mother information with the 15-year mother information, you would merge those two data sets using the MID key. You could also use the child ID key, and you can also use the family ID key if you wanted to merge across time. So this is a very useful diagram, really useful for people who will be hands-on with growing up in New Zealand research data sets and who will be data wrangling and merging and analyzing the growing up in New Zealand data. See one more. Okay. The diagram that I've shown you and the sources of data information that I've shown you and the Now We Are 15 information that I've also shown you, these are all available in our data user guide, which will be on our website very soon by the end of today. The data user guide is actually a very useful document, one that I've found very useful for all the years that I have been working with growing up in New Zealand data. It is quite a long document, but it represents all 16 years of information that we've collected and growing up in New Zealand. It does have a nice table of contents which you can browse, but really it has information about all our data collection waves. It has very useful information about the structure and the content of our research data sets. Information available on there will be very useful to people working with our research data sets, information on linking data sets across data collection waves. So please have a look at that. There's a lot of information on the tools and the scales that we've used in our data collection waves. And then there is a section there titled Considerations for Analysis and Interpretation of Data by Ethnicity. And so Terry will talk more about the data user guide in his part of the talk. I'll hand over to Terry now. Thank you.
Thank you, Avinash. That's really informative. Kia ora koutou. My name is Terry Lee, and I am the Data Access Coordinator at Growing Up in New Zealand. In this session, I will give you a practical walkthrough of how to access BRNZ data. I will cover where to start, how the application process works, what the review stages and timeframes usually look like, and what happens once the application is approved. If you are new to BRNZ data, this will give you a good overview. And if you have been through this process before, there are some updated resources and process changes that will be useful to know. The main goal today is to help make the data access process clearer and easier to plan for, whether you are getting ready to submit an application or just thinking ahead of a future project. Before you start preparing an application, we strongly recommend spending some time going through the main data access resources first. Then they will help you understand what is required, whether the data is suitable for your project, and how to use it appropriately. I'll start with the data access application form, because this is often the most practical place to begin. It walks you through the information we need to assess a project and gives you a good sense of what you should already have thought through before applying. The data access protocol is the foundation of the data access process. It explains the purpose of the data access, the principles and responsibilities involved, the role of the data access committee, and the safeguards in place to protect participant privacy and appropriate use of the data. When you are scoping your project, as what Avinash has already mentioned in his part. The data user guides, data dictionaries, and questionnaires are especially useful. They help you understand what data is available, whether it can answer your research question, and which variables within data collection waves may be relevant. The data workshops also provide a practical walkthrough of the process. Recordings of the previous workshops are available on website and cover earlier data collection waves. The workshop you are attending today focuses on DCW 15, and the recording will also become available online. The data output guide is another key resource. It was introduced last year and explains the rules and methods used to protect participant confidentiality when producing outputs from the GWINS data. All of these resources are available through the GWINS Data Access Application webpage, and it is mandatory that all project members confirm they have read and understood them. If you get stuck or have any questions while going through these resources, you are very welcome to contact us at dataaccess@growingup.co.nz. Before submitting an application, it is worth spending a bit of time walking through these resources carefully, because they can save you a lot of time later on. They help you check whether the data can genuinely answer your research question, which data collection waves and variables are relevant, and whether your proposed use is realistic and well aligned with the data access process. For example, the data user guide gives you a high-level overview of the study, the collection waves, the data preparation and data structure, while the data dictionaries and questionnaires let you dig deeper into the data details. The data access protocol helps you understand expectations around appropriate use, privacy, Kaitiaki or guardianship responsibilities, as well as protecting the value of the study. And because Kaitiaki principle mentioned in the protocol is important in the data access process, I will briefly highlight what it means in practice. The Kaitiaki principle, or guardianship principle, means that data should be analyzed, interpreted, reported, and published in culturally appropriate ways. It also means that data contributed by Maoli participants and other contributions to the study that draw on Maoli knowledge and expertise are regarded as taonga. Their value should be preserved, protected, and used productively, and importantly for the benefit of Maoli. At the same time, data contributed by members of the other culture groups and other contributions to the study for those groups should also be valued and protected in a similar way. So overall, this principle reminds us that the data access is not only about whether a project is possible, but also about whether the data will be used in a way that is responsible, respectful, and also culturally appropriate. And when you keep these principles in mind from the beginning, it becomes much easier to prepare a clearer and appropriate application. When it comes to write your application, these resources, like what I mentioned in the previous slides, helps you to put together a clearer and more focused proposal, explaining why you need specific data, how you will use it, and how your outputs will be managed safely. So overall, we encourage you to treat these resources not just as reference documents, but also as tools to help you shape a stronger application from the start. And now I will briefly walk through the standard application process and typical timeframes. So the right-hand side of the slide, you can see that is a flow chart that we also have available on our data user guide and also our data application form. The first step is the compliance check. Once you submit your application, we check all required sections are complete and the key information is there. If anything is missing or unclear, we will follow up with you before moving forward. And this usually takes up to 3 working days. The next step is the internal review by the GWINS research team. At a high level, it looks at whether the research questions and the requested data are appropriate, how participant confidentiality is protected, and whether the project will be managed responsibly. Ethics, Katia Kitanga, and the team capability are also considered. The stage can be iterative if clarifications is needed before the application moves forward. So we aim for around 10 working days, though timelines may be longer during busy period, which we will keep you informed. Once the internal review is complete with no further actions required from the applicant, the application goes to Data Access Committee, or DAC, for final approval. The Data Access Committee is made up of the DAC chair, the GWINS research director, the government agency representatives, and plays an important governance role, ensuring data access is appropriate and that the study principles are upheld. If DAC does not raise any major concerns, the usual turnaround time is about 10 working days. After approval, we move to onboarding. This includes finalizing data access agreements, arranging signatures, and setting up secure access. So once signed agreements are in place, onboarding usually takes around 5 working days. And overall, the process is structured and predictable, but it is important to allow enough time, especially if revisions are needed along the way. The final stage is onboarding, where approved applications become active data access projects. As mentioned already, after approval, we prepare the relevant data access agreements between the University of Auckland and the researcher's institution. These agreements need to be signed and returned before access can be activated. New users will be asked to register a University of Auckland account before they can be onboarded. This account is used to provision access to Amazon Workspaces, which is our secure data access platform. Amazon Workspaces is a virtual Windows computer environment where approved researchers can securely access the following: the GWINS research datasets, carry out analysis within a protected environment, collaborate with other approved team members on the same project. Once the access is set up, new users will receive their login details and the platform user guide. Access is approved for the duration of the project up to the end date noted in your data access application. I will now briefly touch on what happens after your analysis is completed. When preparing your outputs, you will be following the data output guide. The data access platform provides cell suppression and random rounding macros, which align with the approach used by Stats New Zealand in the IDI platform. These are reliable tools to help you produce outputs safely. Once your analyses are finalized, output requests are submitted to the data access coordinator, which is me. The GWINS team will review all outputs before release to ensure they meet the requirements set out in the data output guide. The output checking process usually takes up to 5 working days. And this reflects the 5 SAFEs framework outlined in the data output guide, which is safe people, safe projects, save settings, save data, and save outputs. In other words, data access is not just about project approval. It is also about ensuring the the data is used in a secure environment and that our outputs are carefully checked before release to protect participant confidentiality. Data users are offboarded from the data access platform once their project has ended, as per the end date noted in the data access application. If you need to make changes after approval, such as extending your project end date, editing team members, or adding more datasets, there is an amendment application form specifically for the purpose, which is available on our website. To wrap up, plan early, use the key resources and allow time for review, agreement sign-off, onboarding, output checking, and submit amendment application when necessary. So this brings us to the end of the data access process overview. I hope this has helped clarify the data access process, and we look forward to supporting your questions and applications. Once again, our email address for data access is dataaccess@growingup.co.nz. I'll now hand it back to Avinash.
Great. Thanks very much, Terry, for informing us about how to access our Growing Up in New Zealand data, the processes, the procedures, and the timeframes for when people submit requests. I've seen that there has been a few questions posted. I'm just not. Um, and thank you, Carolina, for responding to our questions. I saw I might answer one question I saw about from Josie. Is the data linkage from MOE available to data users yet? Yes, so if you are interested in using any linkage or additional data for use with our Growing Up in New Zealand datasets, please contact us with your request and information about which data you want to use in our system. We will have a look at this on a case-by-case basis. The things that we have to check and satisfy are that we have consents in place for using any such data, so any MOE data. So Josie, we just have to make sure we have the consents in place to use that information. We also just have to ensure that we have the required resource to perform the linkages to our Growing Up in New Zealand datasets, and if there are any potential cost implications due to the work needed to enable linkage of datasets in our secure data access platform. So yes, please send us your requests about using data in our system. And Josie, to answer your question, I will come back to you with a confirmation on whether the MOE data is available to data users yet. I see there's another question about ethics, and I will respond to that after this, Josie, along with another linkage question from Zheng Feng. Okay, great. So before I wrap this up, I'd just like to thank you all for being here for this data access workshop, the last webinar in the Now We Are 15 series. I'd really encourage you to have a look at the resources on our website, the documents that Terry had up previously. And I would also encourage you to please submit your research questions to utilize the rich data that we've have and that we've collected over the last 16 years at Growing Up in New Zealand. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your data requests. Thank you.